a national championship winning coach has turned down the Kentucky job. And it's made it very clear. Kentucky's next candidate that they go after, they have to give him an offer he can't refuse.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe. On today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be discussing the recent developments out of Waco, Texas. Scott Drew, head coach of the Baylor Bears, has turned down the Kentucky job. Going to discuss his thoughts on the job today, as well as other potential candidates. And one man that is not given an official yes or no to the position. Kentucky needs to throw as much money at him as possible and make him say no. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more, and right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. You can visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Kentucky basketball in a very weird spot after Scott Drew, according to various sources and according to himself eventually on Twitter, he will not be accepting the Kentucky job. He will be staying in Waco. A lot of rumors yesterday about whether or not he was in Lexington, his family was in Lexington. Regardless, he came to a very clear conclusion that he does not want to move. He wants to stay where he is at. And quite honestly, after hearing what he had to say in his release, I can understand where he's coming from. Now, obviously, this is a whiff for Kentucky, who has just stepped away from a national championship winning coach that they could have potentially landed. But here is what Scott Drew had to say. In our program, we strive to put Jesus first, then others, then ourselves. We truly believe God has called my family and I to continue our work here at Baylor, surrounded by the best people and community anyone could be blessed to have. We are grateful for the support of Mac Rhodes, President Livingstone, and the entire Baylor family. And we look forward to working together to bring more championships to Waco. #joy. And if you beat around the bush a little bit on Twitter, you can see that Drew does, in fact, have 3 children that are college and high school age in Waco, and he's kind of built himself up alongside his family, alongside his program over the past 20-plus years. And to be honest with you, I can understand where Drew is coming from, and I wish him the best of luck. Absolutely no bad blood here. Turned down the Louisville job, I believe, for similar reasons. I can understand why he would not want to make a move, as disappointing as it is to somebody who would have gotten excited had he been hired. Also, just randomly, have you seen Chip Gaines going just insane on Twitter at Kentucky fans over this? Not insane in like a bad way, just like yo mama jokes and things like that. It is genuinely one of the more entertaining beefs that we've seen on this app in just a few months. So that's what Scott Drew had to say about the Kentucky job. Hey, by the way, if you have not subscribed to Locked On Kentucky yet, whether you are listening on podcast or watching on YouTube, please go ahead and do so. We're free and available on all platforms. Going to continue to talk about this coaching search today and for the days to come until Kentucky ends up getting a hire. But Scott Drew won a title with Baylor in 2021, is officially out. And it's really disappointing that Kentucky could not get one of their first options. If I'm not mistaken, Nate Oates, Dan Hurley, Scott Drew, those were the 3 guys that Kentucky really looked at first. Obviously, Oates has said no. Scott Drew has said no. Hurley has done nearly everything but definitively say no. At least we don't know if Kentucky's made him an offer or not. That has not been made public. The fact that it has not been found out as to whether or not he's even received an offer or been given conversation it is kind of surprising to me. Just a little surprising to me. But the reality now that Kentucky faces, if they can't get the man in UConn, if they cannot pick him up, Kentucky's going to start working down the list, and we're going to get to some coaches that a lot of you are not excited about. Some of you are. Some of you very much so are. But if the goal is for Kentucky to win a national championship, there are a lot of coaches that they could look at that have never even gotten close. Meaning, like, never even gotten past the Sweet 16 close. Never gotten past the Elite 8 close. Haven't been to a Final Four since 2011 close. There's a chance here things do take a very chaotic turn, but that is not to say some of the coaches Kentucky's still going to look at are bad. And also, I want to say something that people have been kind of harping on online, like a lot of national media types. Kentucky, regardless of whoever they bring in, I think that their coaching ability is going to elevate once they step into this job because of what it is, because of the added ability to recruit kids to the University of Kentucky, because of the resources, because of the boosters more than likely being willing to pour more money into the NIL collectives that Kentucky's trying to start right now. There's going to be a lot of push, I think, with the next guy to make him and make the program good financially, and then from a roster construction standpoint as well. I think Kentucky's going to have a chance to really take off with the next guy that they get. Now, we may not see results immediately in the first season, but the next guy that they end up getting is going to be pretty solid, at least I believe. Whether that is, we'll save the names here for just a little bit, but regardless of whoever it is, I have faith that this athletic director, Mitch Barnhart, won't mess this hire up. He will get the guy that he wants, and he will stick with him. I personally right now think because he has not definitely said no, we don't even know if Kentucky's contacted him yet, which I think would be crazy to say that they haven't. The fact that, again, that information is not public is surprising to me. Dan Hurley, you have to give him as much money as possible. Let's talk about why here in just a second. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at GameTime. MLB is kicking off here. It's starting to get into swing, and maybe you want to go head down and watch a Major League Baseball game near wherever you are located. For a lot of you, it's going to be the Reds. For me, it's going to be the Braves. Very excited about MLB kicking off here. If you want to go get tickets, whether that be last minute or days before, you need to check out GameTime. GameTime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. It is absolutely the place to go for last-minute tickets. They've got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and then their lowest price guarantee. They take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. That lowest price guarantee, by the way, means GameTime will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a ticket in the same section and row for less elsewhere. As I've discussed a number of times on this podcast, especially last fall, loved using GameTime to travel to various college football events, sometimes last minute, and they definitely always had tickets available. Same for MLB, by the way. Sometimes you find yourself in Atlanta for whatever reason and you want to go to a Braves game. Well, hey, guess what? Last minute tickets over on GameTime. You can get them immediately. The photos from the seats are incredible. Better in person. Absolutely have loved using the GameTime app. It's quick and super easy to utilize, and you need to take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, continuing along here on the Thursday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. I really appreciate you guys tuning in to the show today. Again, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel already, I would greatly appreciate it if you went ahead and did that. If you were listening on podcast, I would also appreciate it if you did that as well. There's one coach that I think Kentucky basketball definitely needs to go after here, and it is Dan Hurley. You have to make him say no. In case you're wondering, with the timeline on Dan Hurley, their parade for their national championship celebration, I believe, is Saturday. So Kentucky's got today and tomorrow to try and push and see if they can make him say no. Before that, some massive amounts of money need to be thrown his way. And according to what we're hearing, it's going to happen. According to KSR, they said this on the radio show earlier. They said, quote, if Danny Hurley turns Kentucky down, he will be turning down the most money in the history of college athletics. And I don't know what the price tag is on Dan Hurley. Last time you and I spoke, there were rumors about Kentucky offering him $11 to $12 million. Will that be the case here, or will it potentially end up being more? I don't know, but all I know is that yesterday, when asked on Colin Cowherd's radio show, Dan Hurley was questioned about how he would feel if a school came to him and just backed a Brinks truck up and just asked him, however much money it takes to get you here, we'll get you here. We'll just throw as much money as we possibly can to get you to move schools. What would his reaction be to that? And Hurley very calmly said that he has a history of turning down previous schools for different opportunities and for more money. And that he, right now, the only thing on his mind is focusing on a potential three-peat with the UConn Huskies. That was the gist of it. He also said, if I'm not mistaken, that it would be flattering, be very flattering if he got that offer as well. Does Hurley have an offer on the table? I don't think so right now, because if he did, you would have to guess that the Kentucky media, the journalists, the ones that report on these things, they would have an answer. And just to be clear, by the way, currently not a reporter. I'll let you know if I'm reporting something, but we're kind of all sitting here, think tanking this, discussing this. Where's Kentucky going to go? What would be good? What would be bad? And we're waiting for some answers, not just from these writers, but from Kentucky themselves. And obviously, coaching searches take time, and Kentucky's trying to, dot their I's and cross their T's. They're trying to do everything right here. But they need to make a push. Over the next 48 hours, they need to make a push. How much money is going to be thrown at them? I don't know, but Kentucky has to make an offer. They have to make an offer. If they do not make an offer, just to reiterate what I was saying a second ago, Kentucky's going to put themselves in a position to hire a less than stellar coach, potentially a less than stellar coach, which there are still a ton of good options out there. They just aren't Dan Hurley, the man that just won back-to-back national championships. Whatever it takes, Kentucky's got to go do it. And I understand the conversations surrounding, his wife is Jersey through and through as he is. He doesn't want to leave that area. He wouldn't fit personality-wise. Think about what we're dealing with here. Kentucky's whiffed on a couple of different coaches already. The roster is starting to get picked apart. Guys like Reed Sheppard are probably going to enter the draft. That's just the reality of it. It's probably going to happen. Kentucky is going to be in a weird spot. They need someone with that energy, with that flair, with that excitement to come into this program and turn it around. And a lot of you are saying, no, we can't do that because that's what Cal did. I think Hurley's a little different. I think Hurley is a little more calculated. I'm not saying that because Cal left us. I would have said that before. I would have said that years before Cal left. 2 years ago, I would have said the exact same thing before Hurley even won a national championship. Heading into the tournament as a 4 seed in 2023, I would have said, yeah, Hurley is a more tactical coach. I mean, are we really going to sit here and talk about how Coach Cal makes decisions with his players and with his X's and O's and compare that to a man that just won back-to-back national championships? I mean, clearly Cal is very good. There's a reason he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But this man right now is cooking. And I say let him cook. I say bring him in. Do whatever it takes. Who are some of the other names that I think realistically could be getting a phone call? Let's talk about those names here in just a second. Before I do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. It's playoff time right now in the NBA and the NHL. Baseball is in full swing, like we mentioned, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That is 150 buckaroos, win or lose, and you can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. That is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, wrapping up the Thursday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Again, I appreciate you guys tuning in. A lot of you guys recently giving your thoughts in the comments below and on socials at Locked On UK on Twitter. Continue to do that. Let me know what you think about Kentucky with this coaching search, about Scott Drew, about Dan Hurley. A lot of you are going to continue to tell me Scott Drew's not taking that job. Okay. Until I hear him say no directly, and there's a very realistic chance that he does, by the way. That's probably the world we're going to end up living in. Until he definitively says no, I'm going to keep saying he's the guy that Kentucky needs the most. And I think that personality aside, he's a winner. So, who are some of the options that Kentucky basketball could look at? There are 3 coaches I think Kentucky would call, and a 4th one that I hope they don't call over these other 3 at least. Billy Donovan right now is in a weird spot where he probably is not in a great position to accept the Kentucky job. He may have the Bulls in the playoffs here in just a couple of weeks. His season could end in a few days if they fail to win the play-in game. They fail to make the playoffs, period, which I think mathematically is just there's a very low chance of that happening. Donovan, as we previously discussed multiple times on the show, proven winner in college basketball, but it's been a very long time since he's done so. And I say very long time. It's not like 2017 was that long ago. I believe that's when he retired. But still, that stretch there of 7 years, 8 years, there's so much that has changed in college athletics as a whole, and especially in college football and basketball. Could Donovan get comfortable in this new environment and win? I don't know. I don't know if he could. But I do know the man won back-to-back national championships, and he went to 3 straight Elite Eights before he checked out at Florida. I'd say he's a good coach. He'd be one of the better options on the table if Kentucky misses. Rick Pitino is probably too old for this. I believe he's 71 years old, currently at St. John's. Would Kentucky even offer the man the job? I don't know. I think it's somebody that you'll see circle around as, oh, Kentucky may call him. Oh, Kentucky does call him. But I don't know if it's going to get much further past that. Pitino is very similar to guys like Mark Few, who we talked about on yesterday's show about potential candidates. Bill Self is another one where it's like, okay, they're good coaches. There's no denying that. But not only do I not think that Self and Few are going to leave their current positions at their schools, I also think that would be very confusing for them to make a move this late in their career because they don't have a ton of time left. If the goal is to get Kentucky back to where they want to be, there's not a ton of time to do that. I don't know if they'd be able to accomplish that. So Donovan, for certain reasons, may say no. Pitino, for certain reasons, Kentucky may not even get past a cup of coffee with him. There's one more coach that a lot of you seem to be 50-50 on. That's Bruce Pearl, who I think very realistically could get a call. He's not gotten a call yet, just based on what we've seen. But push comes to shove, he really turned Auburn's program around. He definitely did. Now, there are some flaws. Some of them have been well documented. Some of them in the NCAA tournament recently has not really done anything in the tournament since 2019. We'll check that he hasn't made it out of the first weekend. But the transition from Auburn to Kentucky, I think, would be relatively smooth, and I think he would be able to get things off the ground pretty quickly. And depending on how much of his staff he takes with him, I think that he could end up being very successful, because I have a lot of faith in Auburn's staff individually. They got some really, really bright minds on that staff. X's and O's wise, virtually unbeatable in the college game right now. Very, very smart staff that he has surrounded himself with. So if you want X's and O's, ladies and gentlemen, Pearl can bring that in spades on not just offense, but on defense as well. It's just a question of whether or not he can get that recruiting up to the level that Kentucky wants it to be, while also having some success in the postseason and maybe even winning a national championship. And it's not like Pearl's just done this at Auburn. He did it at Tennessee too. He made Tennessee a very good program before Rick Barnes stepped in. So those are the three guys that I think Kentucky realistically makes a call to. That's what I'm thinking right now. What do you think? Who do you think Kentucky should call? Who do you think they should try and go and get? If it's not Dan Hurley, which a lot of you are probably going to end up saying, yeah, he's not coming, which is fine. Let me know in the comments below. Tell me who you would get then if it's not one of these four guys. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnUK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_, and you can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.